Moving to this now, the Border Management Authority says 443 Zimbabwean children were rescued yesterday evening before being trafficked into South Africa through the Beitbridge Border Post. Commissioner Nakampe Masiapato says they've been in contact with the Harare counterparts to trace the parents as well as guardians of the children. The agency earlier outlined its festive season control measures. Newzroom Afrika's Katleho Sekhotho has more.
The Border Management Authority has outlined various measures to fast-track travelling at South Africa's 72 ports of entry during the festive period. And following the rescue of 443 Zimbabwean children under the age of 8 yesterday evening at the Beitbridge Border Post, Commissioner Nakampe Masiapato says the agency is doing all it can with their Harare counterparts to trace the parents and guardians of children.
So in that instance, we had to then take them out of those buses and therefore, like I said, engage with the Zimbabwean counterpart and be able to do some investigative work. So as we speak, that is fairly a latest issue. The colleagues on the ground are still working on the issues with the relevant authorities, including the Zimbabweans. Because remember, Beitbridge does not only cater for Zimbabwe per se, but there will be some that will be coming from Malawi and other parts of the continent. So on that basis, we are doing work on the ground. We will be bringing in other officials or other, colleagues from other countries to be able to help us to do the process. So during the course of the day, we should be able to have the ultimate latest in terms of even where the children are coming from in actual fact, and where are they supposed to then be handled further down the line.
Border Agency says it expects full travel recovery since the COVID-19 pandemic, with over 6 million people expected to move in and out of the country's ports of entry.
Over the years, our top 10 ports of entry which facilitate the majority of the people has always been OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg, Beitbridge Port of Entry to Zimbabwe, Libombo Port of Entry to Mozambique, Ficksburg as well as Maseru Bridge into Lesotho, Cape Town International Airport in the Western Cape, Oshhoek Port of Entry into Swaziland, Koopfontein Port of Entry into Botswana, Caledon-Spoort Port of Entry into Lesotho, as well as Groblersdal Bridge Port of Entry into Botswana.
The Commissioner says departments no longer exist at ports of entry, adding that the government still makes policy decisions on border-related matters.
They still design or develop laws on border issues. Till now we just implement, and that is basically the essence. So in other ways, it is the Department of Home Affairs that will say people from that country must come with visas, and it is Home Affairs that must give them visas. Our responsibility as the port is to make sure that the visa you come with is valid. Simple. So it is not a complex model. Sometimes when I put it easier, I say that the BMA model had separated the player from the referee, because the departments will then be developing the policies, we will then be doing the implementation.
Criminality continues to be a challenge at ports of entry.
But what we have done as the Border Management Authority, we do have what we call the National Targeting Center. So the National Targeting Center does have the colleagues from the intelligence community, but other colleagues from other parts of the law enforcement dispensation in the country. That include SAPS, as well as, for example, the colleagues from Home Affairs, Anti-Corruption, and all of that. So these are the colleagues that we then work with and be able to deploy our risk model around each and every port. So we know which port, most of the people in which port do what kind of criminal activities, and to that extent we then deploy appropriately.
From an agricultural perspective, travellers are urged to be careful before bringing alien invasive species into South Africa. The agency also warns against travelling with regulated products such as meat and honey. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Katleho in Pretoria.